Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back to the Midlife Muscle Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Atlas. We got my co-host, Yanko, the standard American Bulldog, napping on the rug down below our feet. And today's great guest is Kyle Brady. Kyle, thank you for making it.
Great to be here with you, Joey.
Appreciate your
And
time.
I don't know if I realized your last name is Atlas. Is
So-
that not a perfect last name for a
Right.
personal trainer? It sounds like you might. Is that your stage name?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say.
And I'm open about this. Good picking up on that. When I first started, my first client ever out of Greenwich, Connecticut, he was a sports marketing ace. Like, this guy was brilliant. He's like, we got to get a better name for you so that people can say it, spell it, remember it, and share it. I said, you're right. I just don't know what to choose. But my actual name is Janusa,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Just a little bit Italian.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mhm.
So I was like, you're right. And so we were powwowing during one of the training sessions, and we had ESPN on, and Teddy Atlas, the boxing trainer, was talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, how about Atlas? He said, that's it. Done.
Yeah.
Joey Atlas. And that was it. Ever
From
since.
the the guy that's carrying the world on his
Right,
shoulders,
Charles
right?
Atlas.
Yeah.
So his story was the same. His actual last name was Siciliano. Charles Siciliano.
I love that.
So
Oh
for
my
marketing
gosh.
purposes, even back, I don't know, maybe 1920s, 1930s, he went with the Greek god Atlas.
Yep. There you go. I like it.
It worked.
Good story.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so I took a quick look at your Instagram. So for a quick intro, I saw small business owner, attorney, former NFL 13 years, and did I miss anything from that? That's the simple short
father
one.
of three.
Father of three. All right, so what are their ages?
I've got a 19-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old daughter.
All right.
Yeah.
Do they play sports?
They do.
What
Yeah,
are
my
their top sports?
So my son really likes basketball and football. I'm taking him on Monday, driving all the way up to Grand Rapids, Michigan. He's going to a small school up there called Davenport University. Going to play
Nice.
some football there next year. And my daughter's the middle child is into track. She's a sprinter. And
Awesome.
then got the youngest daughter who's 11, and she's really into gymnastics. I mean, she loves it so much. Actually, she does it for 5 hours a day. And homeschools.
That's
and this
awesome.
is something that she wants to do. I've said to her before, hey, listen, this is a grind. That's a lot. I mean, if you ever feel like you're burning out, and you want to take a little downtime, she's like, no, I love it. She was just watching the Olympics today, actually, and she says that's her dream, is to be an Olympian one day.
That's awesome. Sounds like she has the goods to possibly do it.
Well, she's very motivated, that's for sure. And she's definitely a pretty gifted little athlete, very strong, very, just determined, though.
Yeah.
First and foremost, she's very determined.
Got to have that if you're going
Mhm.
to go somewhere in that realm.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So you and I met at the gym. We crossed paths a few times, head nod. I get the vibe on people pretty easily. And I could tell, like, I'm a sports fan, but I didn't know who you were, just like I didn't know who James was until I started talking to him. And he and I crossed paths on the beach so many times,
Mhm.
just a head nod. He's a fit guy, and I didn't know who he was. Like, and I've watched plenty of Jags games in the past. Most of the time, I don't know who's beneath the helmet.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not that much of a fanatic where I know, oh, that's him.
Yeah.
Right. So you and I crossed paths, good vibe. We eventually start talking. And the first thing that we touch on is the hair missing from our ankles.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I could tell
You
you
saw-
must have been getting your ankles taped at some point in your life. That's
Man,
right.
like, the fact that you realized that, I knew you had to be going through that as well back in the past, because if you didn't have to do it, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for context, anybody watching, if you're not watching, if you're listening to the audio, you got to come watch this at midlifemusclepodcast.com, or just search that on YouTube, midlifemusclepodcast.com, so you can see us on video. For context, what's your height and current weight?
So I'm 6'6" and 290.
6'6", 290.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not to deviate too far, what was your most effective, not highest, but most effective playing weight when you were in the NFL?
So when I first got in the NFL, and by the way, just to let you know, it doesn't bother me at all that you didn't know who I was. I sometimes actually prefer that. Jacksonville is definitely one of the smaller market NFL cities. So coming down here, it was almost like going back to college in terms of the city was just in love with this team, and
Right.
you know, you couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. Now it's a whole lot better now because I'm now in my 50s, and
Right.
you know, their fans are a whole lot more concerned with the current players than they are
Right.
the former.
Right.
But you know, you still get recognized
Yes.
because of the size.
Sure.
You know, it's a big giveaway. But when I first got in the NFL, I was same height, 6'6", but high 250s, 258. My first several years, I played 258 to 263. You know, through like my 8th or 9th year in the NFL, I was a little more involved in the passing game. Needed a lot more agility and mobility. And then as time went by, I was used much more and utilized much more as a blocking tight end.
Right.
And I'm sometimes going against defensive ends that are, you know, I'm giving up some weight to,
Oh,
at
yeah.
260.
Right.
You know, they might be 290 plus, sometimes
Right.
all the way up to 310 or more pounds. So I like to say it didn't hurt to have a little more horsepower in the
Yeah.
engine, you know.
Understood.
So I started to get up into the 270s and even into by the end of my career, even into the 280s. But at that time, it was even more solid than it is now.
So it was more training toward that goal.
You know,
and a little bit of calorie increase, like calculated, or?
I was very fortunate. I had the kind of physical body that when I would train hard in the weight room, I'd put muscle on pretty fast. I mean, especially at that age, you know, with the amount of testosterone and growth hormone you have going on in your system, and even in your 20s and everything. I had to actually watch out to not like train where I get too much mass, because you want to still maintain your speed and agility. Speed and agility at the NFL level is huge. You know, there's plenty of big guys in college, but the thing that sets the guys apart at the pro level is how well they move.
Right.
So, you know, and I was mindful of what I mean, I was like we were just discussing before we started this interview, I was an ex-phys major like you, took nutrition classes.
Right.
And I always try to stay really dialed into all that, because I understood that if you want to go out there and have your engine run like a Porsche on game day, you got to put really good fuel in it.
Yes.
So, I really was mindful of those kind of things, and my metabolism was so good I could eat a ton of food, and it wouldn't, you know, I mean, you take in 8,000 calories a day because you're training so much.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. The when you have that kind of output, that contextually speaking, that caloric intake to the average person would bury them within a week. But you guys are like physically training, practicing, putting it out there, high intensity. You're not only are you burning that as fuel, but it has to be also used to sustain your physical structure.
Yep.
Right? Rehab, recovery, re-energizing for the next day. Yeah. So you got this multifaceted approach to the caloric intake, right, on several different levels.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you're a 270-some pound athlete, male athlete, and at that time, you know, not necessarily now, my body fat was between 9 and 11%, you know, and that was like measured in a bod pod, you know, like really
it was accurate.
And so, you know, like you said, you're not only going and doing so many dynamic type of workouts every day, like not only in the weight room but also on the field and things like that. You've got to be taking in that kind of fuel to maintain your energy levels, but also your resting basal metabolic rate is sky high compared to the average person. I mean, you're a calorie burning machine as you sit there. So your body's just constant. I mean, I used to just graze all day long. You know?
I believe it. The metabolic dynamics are very different as compared to where you're at now, where most of us are at. So on that note, like, again, going back to us crossing paths, we start talking. I had a feeling you were a pro athlete. I just and my first guess would have been probably football player, right? Like, there aren't many other large sports around here.
Yeah. I try to tell people I was a jockey. They don't buy it though.
I could do that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they don't buy that. If I was a jockey, I would race Clydesdales.
Yeah,
Clydesdales maybe. Yep.
So, and you know, looking around the gym, I did notice Christian Leitner. I didn't exactly know who he was, but my guess was probably a former pro basketball player.
He's a tall dude.
Yeah, and then another older member who followed basketball said, "Yeah, that's Christian Leitner. You remember the shot? Blah blah blah." And I looked it up, and it brought back a lot of memories on when that all happened, how he made the dream team, etc. You got guys like Dexter in his 50s, and for me, my point is seeing you former pros like still putting in the time, energy, and effort in middle age, to me, that's an inspiration for the average person trying to find more reasons to stick to it, make that commitment, make the dedication happen. You guys, I'm sure you've got some old injuries or bruises that you still deal with on a regular basis, but you don't let that stop you, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to the orthopedic surgeon tomorrow, Dr. Redmond here at Southeast Orthopedic. Um, yeah, if you play that long, I ended up playing until I was 36 years old. You know,
Right.
5 years of major college, 13 years in the NFL. I had 3 arthroscopic knee surgeries, and I was very fortunate, very blessed. I mean,
Right.
that's not a tremendous amount of surgeries for a guy
Right.
who played as long as I
Right.
did. But just the wear and tear on your body is
Yeah.
pretty dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
And so my shoulders are pretty worn out. My knees are pretty worn out. I've definitely got, arthritic conditions going
Right.
on in them. But I think that really is additional reason for why I need to keep moving.
Right.
The less I move, the worse I feel. I mean, when I sit still, I just stiffen up.
I get it.
I mean, it's just a part of aging, but I think especially when you've got a lot of the different arthritic changes that are going on in your body from being so physically active.
Right.
And I know that down the line, eventually there'll be some joint replacements in my future, but I'm trying to do everything I can to stave that off.
Right.
And, healthful living and continuing to move is a great way to do it. Because, for example, with the 3 scopes on my knees, I've got very little cartilage left, especially in what's called the medial compartment, as you know, ex-phys guy.
Yeah.
The interior portion here of between my femur and my tibia and fibula, they're just about at bone on bone.
Wow.
But when I exercise, you get all that synovial fluid moving in there.
It feels better.
It feels much better. It really does. It's
totally
like
understood.
It gives it a little bit of lubrication and a good feeling in there. Whereas if I stopped, I mean, this thing might stiffen up and even maybe freeze.
Yeah. The other part of that is by maintaining your training and staying physically active, when it does come time for any of those surgeries, you'll have an easier time getting through them and rehabbing back to your normal state as well.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that's one of the reasons I keep doing it too, because there are certain days where the pain is significant enough where I'm just like, it might be. And that's why I schedule this appointment. Like, I just want to say, hey, doc, when do you know it's time?
Right. What is this one for?
This is for my left knee in particular. It's you see, I go into the gym and I try to be as active as possible. I'm still a good leg strength and quadricep strength and stuff like that. Like we're doing extensions and different types of squatting and stuff like that. But which, like you said, will help tremendously when on the other side of any kind of surgery. Yeah. But I think what they say is that you'll eventually know. The pain will just become so severe.
Right.
That,
it won't be like, can I wait? No, it's time.
Exactly.
You feel it.
That thing's not working right anymore.
Right. So, and I've observed you training. I can see you, put in the effort. You and Tony train together, or he trains you, or like, what's the dynamic there?
Well, actually, Tony and I got to know each other. We live here in Atlantic Beach, Florida, and there used to be a gym right here at the beach. It's called Sportsplex. It's right next to where the old Kmart was in Neptune Beach.
Right.
A lot of beach people used to go in there and work out.
Right.
And Tony was a trainer in there.
Okay.
And when I was still playing, I'd go in there in the off seasons to train, and I could tell he knew football pretty well. His dad was an old football coach in Ohio. His dad's still alive, and I could tell Tony knew the game. And he went to Naval Academy, played there for a little while until, unfortunately, an injury ended his career in football. But so we would get talking, and he's an outgoing guy like you and I are.
Yeah.
And he would sometimes help me. Like, I needed to do a lot of neck exercises, which is very unusual. Not many people do that. You can either use a 4-way neck machine, which you can't find in many gyms, or you can have somebody do like manual resistance. Exactly. So I used to get down on a bench and have him do manual resistance on my neck to keep the neck strong for football.
Super important.
And and so he and I just kind of hit it off, developed a relationship, and he saw how hard I pushed myself in the gym.
Yeah.
He, I think, wanted someone to do that with him, to train like high intensity style with him, and so now we actually just train together. He trains a good number of clients there at the gym, and I think he just looks at it like, well, this is someone who will kind of push me and keep me accountable as well, which we all kind of need in life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get that vibe. Like, it's good seeing you guys train. Yesterday, I saw you guys doing the medicine ball toss with the ring down the what's that open area called? The turf. Yeah.
We make a little competition out of it.
Yeah,
which is fun
it's good.
Too.
It's good. I mean, that's functional. Like,
exactly.
It's not all about like pumping hard weights and getting crazy on your joints. but functional stuff like that is priceless to have as part of the mix.
Absolutely. No,
At this stage of life.
That's the word I use with people. I mean, people sometimes see me and they're like, "Oh man, what do you look like? You're still lifting heavy. You look like you still play." And I said, "No, a lot of this is just leftover foundation that I built over the course of 30 years. I mean, I started resistance training at, like, seriously anyway, around 16 years old, when it became evident that football would probably be my best sport and the one that I had the best chance of excelling in, at least through college. I didn't know if it would go anywhere beyond that. And so, I kind of started building it and didn't finish till I was 36. So during that 20-year period of my maturation and growth period of my, growing as a male, I was really building muscle dynamically. Since then, though, all I've been concerned about is that exact word, functionality. I just wanted to be able to have a quality of life, be able to, like, pick up my kids and run around with them, go for hikes with them. Like, we go to the mountains in North Carolina, go on waterfall hikes. I've got great memories. But
got to be able to do it. If you can't do it, you're not going to go have those experiences.
Yeah, I literally could care less about how much I bench or how much I squat.
Understood.
It really doesn't concern me at all. I just want to stay functional and stay healthy and be able to move. Because, as an athlete too, it's like you really value that, and that's something. Your physical freedom is something that I hope to always be able to maintain.
Right. Amen. It's a good example for the kids to see too. Like, they're in their prime of their, like, teen athletic years, but having them see, like, what does the future hold? Like, what might I have to do in the future? As part of my lifespan, right? And them seeing you train and stay committed to it is an awesome example for them to visualize and know that, like, it never ends, really. You're training for something, no matter what it is in life. Sometimes it's life you're training for, like where we're at.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't realize maybe the impact that it had on them, seeing me doing those things growing up as they were growing up. But even after my playing days were over, I actually developed a strong liking for running during my football career. Not distance running or pavement pounding. I would go out and do track workouts. And even after my first couple of years of finishing playing, when my knees were still up to it, I'd actually go out and do these track workouts because I just kind of enjoyed
for
it.
your fitness.
Yeah, exactly. It was a good way to stay aerobically and anaerobically conditioned and things like that. And they'd be riding their little tricycle around or rollerblading while we're at the park. And yet now, they all like to do those things. Like, actually, I just took my kids for an overseas trip for the first time since COVID. We went to Greece and Hungary.
Nice.
And like 3 times a week, we actually went into a gym. I mean,
so this is awesome, because this was one of my questions. We were originally going to do this in June. Then you had all that travel coming up. That's right. Yeah. So we held off until now, but that's my next question. What's your approach when you travel? Is it, so let me just see what happens, or is there like a proactive pre-programming?
Well, generally speaking, I try to do at least like 3 times a week of some type of resistance training, or actually the kind I do specifically is high intensity interval training, which you probably know about that type of training. I think it's a very efficient way to keep your cardiovascular system efficient and running well, yet also getting the benefits of resistance exercise, which is, science will say as we age, is one of the most important things.
We need that resistance training.
Yeah, for women with osteoporosis and things like that, for men with maintaining testosterone and just muscle tone and things like that. And functionality. And so when we went overseas, my kids were beating me to it. Like my middle daughter, who's really developed like a positive addiction, I call it. It's like she enjoys going to the gym and training.
So when you're away, it's not like their mindset is, oh, we're on vacation.
We're getting away from that. Yeah. That's part of the enjoyment. Like, actually, I mean, we're enjoying delicious foods, and the foods are, generally speaking, way healthier over there. Unless you're going to American restaurants. Eating some delicious Greek food, and you kind of
most of it's fresh.
Oh,
if
it's
not
so
all
fresh.
Of it.
Yeah, a lot of it's like farm to table, local, and all that kind of thing. And
love that stuff.
It's awesome. Yeah. So I wish more of the food here in the U.S. was like that.
Agreed.
I think we'd have a lot less health issues if it was.
Agreed.
But it turns out, my daughter was actually saying, "Hey, can we go to a gym?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's find one."
That's
so
awesome.
We'll look at our phones and see what the ratings were. And we some places were a little more makeshift, not necessarily great, but
enough to get something done.
Yeah, exactly. And it was fun experiences for us, and you get out of what you put into it oftentimes.
Yes, and you realize also, if you take that approach when you're on vacation or even traveling for business, or going to visit family really doesn't take that much time.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Because what else would you be doing with that time? Like you find, I would just be sitting around talking, and we could talk later over dinner or lunch or whatever. But you go put in that 50 minutes, hour and 15 minutes, right? You don't miss it. You get so much more out of it.
And it energizes you.
Yes.
I mean, the enjoyment you have of interaction with other people, like after you do that, I mean, you just feel so invigorated. Right. I mean, by doing it, it's like, it's almost
why wouldn't you do it?
It's a strange dynamic. You think by burning energy, you'd feel exhausted, but actually by burning energy, oftentimes it lifts your spirit. I mean, you get the positive endorphins, and then you also just get a greater sense of, you have
all the good stuff that we know.
Yeah.
Like we read about it. We read about it so often. People that don't do this, they read the articles. You name the media. It's like, I should start doing something, right? But most people, average citizen, they don't do something until like there's a big scare, right? And again, so like I was mentioning earlier, doing these podcasts are really aimed at helping the people who are already on track stay on track, right? And then helping that person who's kind of trying to get started, looking for a good reason to start now instead of waiting until the doctor says, hey, you really need to get moving because the numbers are getting worse.
Oh, yeah.
So speaking of numbers, do you do annual exams?
I do. Yeah. I think that might be a little bit unusual too.
No, it's not at all. Well, for us, it's very common.
Especially at this age, yeah.
Yes, for a lot of people though, surprisingly, like I'll have a new coaching client start every now and again. They're in their mid to late 50s, early 60s, and I'll ask, all right, when was your last annual exam? Because I'll need those numbers. And I'll say something like, I don't remember. It's like, wow.
I know.
To me, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because of the fact that, again, being athletes and growing up in that kind of culture and that kind of mindset, we were just so used to it. And some people, I think, get a little bit intimidated by medical settings. My mom was a nurse. I grew up going to the emergency room. She was an emergency room nurse. We'd go there and visit her sometimes, and or visit her in the hospital at the break room or something like that. So those places don't really, and plus, when you're an athlete at the college and pro level, you're being poked and prodded all the time. They're taking your blood, they're checking your joints and putting you through different regimens of
so
testing.
It's very common.
Exactly, so you're used to that. But then, so after finishing up, I think I realized it was important to kind of stay in that kind of routine. So I actually have my annual physical is in August, and at the very least, people should at least get their blood taken once a year.
Yes, just do the baseline basics. Even that is better than zero, because if you don't, let's say, take somebody who's 60, 55, whatever, they have no diagnostics for 8 years. Now they're going, okay, I'm going to go get started. And then you have all these numbers that come back. Let's say most of them are okay, but some are kind of like borderline, or maybe there's one or two that are in the red zone. Part of the problem is you don't know your own personal baseline for the past X number of years.
That's right.
To understand the context of these current numbers, right? And so even if you don't feel like anything is wrong, it's just smart to know for sure what your numbers are on the inside, so that you have your own personal baseline, and if things go up or down or sideways, how that compares to your previous 3, 5, 10 years. And you have better peace of mind because of knowing where you are contextually speaking.
And if you have something that starts to develop, you can nip it in the bud.
Right.
How many times have we all heard about something where, someone goes and gets diagnosed and it's way beyond even treatment, but it's something that very well may have shown up had they had their blood drawn and tested, and
paying attention to your numbers.
Exactly. I mean, not everything's like that. Some things just, sneak up on people and they develop quickly, and there's nothing you could have done about it. But in many instances, just it's the preventative aspect of it. You know what I mean?
Agreed. Yeah. So you do them every year. You still get your annuals done every year. I do mine every year. I love doing them. Like, to me, it's like one of the biggest things I look forward to.
Yeah.
And I share them on the other podcast and in my newsletter. I literally share all my numbers. Like, I'll put them in a PDF format.
Cholesterol and triglycerides.
Right.
And
Everything.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Breakdown, APB, apolipoprotein, glucose, insulin, I get some extra markers done, like I'll even get testosterone levels tested, and I'll share all that because number one, they're just my numbers, but I want people to see like this is what it looks like. Most of mine are green, some are yellow. There's a couple that are red. Am I worried that a couple are red? No, because there are good reasons why they're red. And when we look at our whole picture, like those reds are really nothing to worry about, right? But a lot of people are afraid to go get them done because they might see a few reds. And for the average person, that could be alarming. It's better not to know.
That's kind of sticking your head in the sand, though. You know what
exactly.
I mean? It's going to come back to bite you sooner rather than later, eventually.
Right.
And
how are your numbers? Like the last year, were they all good?
Yeah. For the most part, they are. I think my cholesterol was a little bit higher than normal. You know, and some of that stuff can sometimes be genetic.
Yes.
You know, your liver and stuff like that.
Right.
Some people may have a great diet, but their liver just produces more cholesterol. And so I'm interested. I definitely am very interested to see how they come back this year. I've done a little better, I think, even those last few months with caloric intake.
Okay.
You know, trying to make sure it's nice and clean.
Right.
Maybe because of the fact that they came back what they did last year. So I'm
motivates us.
I'm really interested to see what they come back.
Keep me posted on that. If not, I'm going to ask you.
Sure.
And I'll share my numbers with you too.
Yep.
I'm doing mine in September.
So we're both doing it around the same time.
Yes.
Not far apart.
Excellent. All right. So speaking of nutrition, how would you describe your general approach, and what does a typical day in the life of Kyle look like nutritionally?
Yeah. Well, the old saying of like trying to, I do nothing like, I'm not necessarily fanatical about it. Like, you know, I have a pretty relaxed approach to it, but I by and large, probably 80% or more, if not 85% are good, healthy stuff. You know, like the old saying of like, try to stay on the outside of the grocery store. That's generally what I do, you know. Just try to eat.
So it ends up being a lot of produce, veggies, salads, fruits, nuts,
I love fruits
seeds.
and veggies. Yeah, so
clean meats.
That's not hard for me. Like that part, eating plenty of fruits and veggies. Like just on the way over here, I was snacking on some cherries. You know, throwing the pits out the window. You know, I love nectarines, love cherries, love apples, banana. I always have a banana to start every day with my coffee, and then love leafy green vegetables, and then for the most part lean proteins. I'm not a pescatarian, but I think I could be one, especially living here in Florida.
Yes.
We have so much delicious fish. The grouper, the snapper, flounder, mahi, I mean, all of it. I love that.
That's what I consider myself, with occasional other animals added in. But I would say 80% of my animal proteins are from seafood, fish.
Yep, love scallops, love all the different types of white fish.
We're surrounded by it.
Oh, I mean, you're right. Actually, Ned, I just got a little fishing boat, and so I want to go out. And go out and catch some more of that stuff myself. You know, and bring it home fresh, harvest it myself.
That's so good.
But no, I treat myself though. You know, like there's a restaurant right here at Atlantic Beach called Poe's. They probably have the best burger in Jacksonville.
Okay.
All fresh, never frozen beef, fresh cut French fries, and all that. So if I want a good juicy burger,
so like it's literally what, 20 blocks over from here.
Yeah, it sure is. Right on Atlantic Boulevard.
My parents have gone there. My kids go there. I haven't gone yet. So they're all man. What are you waiting for?
It's tasty.
I'll go when the time is right.
If you want a super juicy, you know, grease dripping down your face cheeseburger.
I love good burgers.
Or a good steak too. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to turn down a good ribeye. You know, if I have a chance to eat one, like once in a while, maybe go to like a Ruth's Chris or something like that.
Right.
Or even, I don't know if you ever eaten at Dwight's here in Atlantic or Neptune Beach. That's excellent food. All of his food is great.
Good stuff.
So
speaking of our little town center area where Pose is, have you ever tried AB Kitchen?
I have, just one time, and that's really good stuff.
That's awesome, huh?
Really tasty.
So that's pretty close to farm to table.
Yep, that's right.
At least for where we live here. I was impressed with that place.
It's good. Really good quality food. Yeah, good service. Actually, I oftentimes go to the mountains in North Carolina and Western North Carolina. I've got a little place in the between Asheville and Boone, a little town called Burnsville. And it's very much a hippie area of North Carolina.
But a lot of good stuff up there.
Tons of great food, tons of great craft beer. That's one of my weaknesses I got to watch out for.
Right.
You know, the IPAs and stuff like that, man, those suckers are about 300 calories a pop.
I'm with you. But
they're delicious.
You know what that speaks to, though? It's quality, like real-time made stuff.
Yeah.
Right? You can taste it. You can feel it.
I'd rather have 3 delicious 6.5% IPAs than 7 Miller Lights. You know,
Agreed.
That are full of adjuncts and nasty grains that whatever's the cheapest on the market
Right.
at that
It's
time.
industrialized beer.
Mass
Right.
produced. Yeah,
Craft beers are a whole different realm.
it
That's
is.
why when you asked earlier, I said, yeah, like that, you can count me in because
Good
it's,
quality ingredients.
yeah, absolutely. If you have an appreciation for that, then you look for that. And it's great to see these independent people like putting these breweries together, like putting the time, energy, and effort and risk into creating these places and establishments and getting these little brands going.
Yeah, they've stimulated local economies. I mean, they're big employers in a lot of places.
Right.
I mean, Europeans used to come to the United States and talk about how garbage our beer was. Well, now I think the United States has actually led the craft beer revolution.
Yes.
You know, that's kind of spread out all over the world. It's kind of neat to see.
When I travel around, like I used to go Airbnb by myself, but now this guy will come with me.
The Airbnbs allow dogs oftentimes too.
Oh yeah, I just got to use the filter for pet friendly, and I go seek out like farm to table places, craft breweries, and that's how I'll plan my stay. Like either to be within walking distance or short driving distance or Uber distance, and just go hang out. Like I'll put my bike in the truck.
Yep.
He'll be coming with me next, and I just go hit the nature, hit the trails. Yeah. If I'm near a beach, hit the beaches, and then go enjoy these great places that these people are opening and running and developing. I have an appreciation for that stuff, and that's why I hardly ever go to like the mainstream restaurants. Like I don't remember the last time I went to like an Olive Garden or Red Lobster or anything like that.
I love going to the local, like the ones that are owned by local people,
right.
You know, and that are, always a better story and usually better food too.
I know you get it. So, so speaking of the coffee, you're a coffee drinker daily. Yeah. What type do you drink?
I just put a couple of. I like a good dark strong roast, like a Starbucks or like an espresso roast of some kind.
Right.
What is it? Dark Magic, made by I forget, Green Mountain or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
I drink about 20 total ounces of coffee in the morning, and I'll put a little bit of cream in it and
simple.
Pretty simple. And then, like I said, I always have a banana.
Okay, so that's your morning.
And a little bit of orange juice.
Okay.
I used to have a full cup glass when I was younger, but like again, not burning as many calories as I used to, and it's pretty high in sugar.
Yes.
I'll just have about 3-4 ounces. But I've always been an orange juice guy.
So that's what time is that in the morning?
Usually I get up around 6:15, 6:30.
And you start with that little combo?
Have that coffee, and then I'll drink the coffee first, then have the banana afterwards.
Right.
And then that's kind of what gets me going.
And do you typically train when I see you like late morning, early midday?
Yeah, usually because the gym's a lot less crowded then, and
right.
I've got I can work from home. I got a flexible schedule, so if I have my choice, I'd rather go in late morning or early afternoon when it's less crowded.
Yeah, agreed. I get it. It saves time. And so, do you eat or drink anything between that early morning combo and your training time?
Yeah. So the coffee kind of staves your hunger, a little bit.
Yeah.
The caffeine kind of can be it inhibits your
appetite
hunger a little
suppressant.
Bit. Appetite suppressant, exactly. So it won't be till maybe maybe 8:30, 9 o'clock that I'll get a little more hungry for something more substantial. And I'm a big leftover guy, actually. I can eat anything because of my.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, because of football. Like sometimes we'd go out and practice early in the morning around 8:30 or so, and till 10:30. And it was a tremendous calorie burn. So I forced myself to, if you didn't get up and eat a substantial amount, you'd really be hurting. You'd bonk in that practice.
Right.
And so I forced myself to get up early enough to where I could eat a substantial meal at least an hour prior.
And then be comfortable enough to practice.
Exactly. So, I would put down tons of oatmeal and about 3-4 eggs, whole milk, bacon, everything. You had to. I mean, you needed it. And so now I still eat eggs. I like some eggs. And but if there's leftovers in the fridge, for whatever I might have eaten the night before, whether it's fish or chicken or steak,
you'll have that for your 9 a.m.-ish breakfast.
Yeah, I'll have something more substantial then, and have some fruit with it or some vegetables or something like that.
Nice.
And maybe a whole piece of whole grain toast or something with some butter. And don't do margarine. I just go straight butter. It's just cream and salt. That's all.
Absolutely.
It's in there.
Especially the organic ones. I mean, there's no reason to go for these faux butters.
Gold. That's pretty tasty stuff. Nice and creamy.
So like contextually, a lot of people don't understand. Like if you're active, not sedentary, your nutrition choices can be different than the mainstream.
Yeah.
Right. So like you can have butter, if you're putting out the effort in your fitness training and your activities.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that's one of the great things about continuing to exercise and maybe, keeping your calorie burn up and your basal metabolic rate high is if you're a foodie, which I am, I love good food
I
and good
get it.
craft beer,
Yeah.
you give yourself a lot more freedom, a lot
Absolutely.
more latitude to
Right.
enjoy more foods.
Right.
And because of the amount of time we've spent in this world, we know what's good for you and what's not. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like stick with the whole stuff and the not highly processed
Right.
stuff.
Simple.
But it gives you so much more freedom for sure.
Right. Yeah, this is good. All right. So what does it so I'm assuming you'll eat something after training in the afternoon.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Oftentimes I'll get real hungry, after you do some
Not
workout.
dinner time though.
No,
It's like
maybe
right after training.
So if I do like a 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. workout, around 12:30 or so, I'll get pretty hungry. Sometimes I'll stop right in there at that restaurant next to the gym, Yoon's Spoon.
Oh yeah.
She makes some great meals. Asian lady.
They look
makes
phenomenal.
Delicious. Yeah, like
Good
super
stuff.
fresh vegetables and
Right.
high quality proteins, and she has some rice in there. You can get
Mhm.
brown or white, whatever. A place that I really love for, let's say I want a quick meal, is Chipotle.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, as far as fast food,
Yes,
that's pretty good stuff for you.
I would eat there. I've eaten there, and I would go there again. It is, like, I gotta say, it is pretty good.
It is, yeah. I mean, you get I'll get a rice on the bottom, and then a good lean protein, usually just chicken on the top.
Right.
All kinds of veggies and pico de gallo and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Or I'll go home and oftentimes eat leftovers or and I like to cook actually. I grill a lot.
Same.
And make things in the crock pot, which are nice and simple, especially when I have my kids.
Yeah.
And
you usually make more than you need for that one meal, so you have the
intentionally
leftovers. I call prep-overs.
Yes, even on a Sunday, I'll make a couple different meals.
Right.
Like my kids love spaghetti and meat sauce. So
Mhm.
I'll make a big old pot of it.
Right.
And keep that in the fridge, and then
Perfect.
if I make some sauerkraut with some kind of pork tenderloin or something like that in the crock pot, I'll keep that on hand all week long.
Right.
Because the hard thing for a lot of people, I think, is when you get that really strong hunger craving after, let's say, even post workout, you just did something really healthy for your body, but then maybe if they're habitually have gone somewhere in that situation and get something bad that's super high in calories, super high in sodium, to always have those good options on hand.
Right. Makes it easier.
Yeah.
Much easier psychologically and logistically.
Yep.
Like it's ready, it's there, the choice is made.
Mm-hmm.
And have the good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed. It's a simple, when we talk about lifestyle, right? Something like that. It's like, all right, you do your food shop so that you're set up to have the things you need, and then you cook in a way, you're cooking anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're spending that time.
Yep.
So instead of making just one meal, you can spend the same amount of time cooking, and you have 5 days worth of meals.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So
you just kind of have to be intentional about going back to your own fridge and eating it.
And knowing that's okay. Like, I can eat this for 5 days straight. Like, it's not going to go bad, or it's not going to be bad for my body to have. No.
People kind of laugh at me sometimes. I kind of take my chances with leftovers. I give it the smell test. I'm like, I'm a typical guy in that.
Me
respect,
too. Like I have a high germ awareness. Like, I'm really picky with food sourcing, and my perspective or my understanding of how a certain restaurant would handle food.
Mm-hmm.
So my family, sometimes they'll be surprised, like mom and dad, old school Italians,
Mm-hmm.
that I'll eat leftovers after like 6 or 7 days if I like give it the eye and smell test.
Yep.
And I say, no, this is good.
Yeah.
Like, even they're like, seriously, you're gonna still eat that?
I think I got it from my mom somewhat. She was a nurse, and she used to sometimes, like, with food that was left over, even if it had a little bit of like mold on it, she'd like scrape it off, like, it's just penicillin anyway. I guess
it's true. Like,
I know.
I mean, I won't eat something that's fully like, all right, that's done.
No, if it's got all kinds of growth, for sure.
I have way more latitude than the average person. It sounds like you do too, but it's planned, and you still know it's good. Like, our refrigerators can do the work.
No doubt.
Right? That's good. And this is helpful. Like, the average person, again, they're looking for strategies and tactics like this to make their life easier, so they can implement these things that we speak about, so that they can get the same outcomes as well.
It's a really popular word these days, but it just kind of takes some intentionality,
Yes.
right? I mean, like,
Right.
and it's just a habit you get into, like on Sundays again. You know, it's kind of an easy day because most people are not working that day. They got a little downtime, a little family time,
Right.
and like I said, I enjoy cooking. You know, like
Right. Same.
so I'll go ahead and just as you mentioned, you know, instead of making just one serving, I'll make like 5 or 6, and then you've got those options for you. And you know, the old saying of like, if you're really hungry, you'll eat it. You know what I mean? Like when my kids are
Yes.
hungry, they say they want to go to Chick-fil-A. I've taken to Chick-fil-A sometimes. I'm not so,
Right. Understood.
you know, I do. But just today, my daughter wanted to go. I was like, oh, we got some great leftovers at home though. You know, like, if you've got it there,
Yeah.
then, you know, you'll want to eat it, you know, or you feel like you have a reason to eat it.
Right.
You don't want to let it, I don't like to let it go to waste.
Understood.
You know?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. Good stuff. All right. So now what does dinner look like?
Mm-hmm.
What's a typical dinner?
Well, let's say like a week like this. I've got my kids with me from Friday to Friday, and so I actually write down the meals we're going to have on the refrigerator.
Nice.
So they can know what's
They
coming.
know.
Yeah, exactly. Like the, here's the meal plan for
Right.
dinner anyway.
Right,
The dinner meal
right.
plan for the week. So tonight is going to be it's Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. We're going to do
Nice.
some Taco Tuesday. We're going to do. I usually do 2 pounds, 1 pound of lean ground beef, and then
Mhm.
1 pound of ground turkey.
Nice.
Get a little mix in there because honestly, you're putting so many seasonings in it.
Right.
It tastes great anyway.
Oh yeah.
So get a bunch of shredded lettuce, some
Right.
pico, and a little bit of sour cream. I
Perfect.
got some avocados at the house already, so
Beautiful.
make
And they all
that.
like it? Like they're good?
Yeah, they all love it. They
That's
love
awesome.
tacos, hard shells, and sometimes we do soft shells. And then, yeah, other nights I'll make something on the grill. Whether they love steak, I'll make some steaks on the grill, or I love chicken thighs.
Yeah.
Those people are like chicken breast people. That is a leaner cut, but I just love chicken
Thighs are awesome. You cook
Bone-in
them right,
chicken
they're so
thighs.
good.
Oh, delicious. And then they're it's harder to overcook them,
Right.
you know, because they do have a little bit more fat content.
Yes.
You know,
There's
they tend to stay
moisture
juicy.
inside between the muscles.
Yeah. And then by the bone too. I mean,
Right.
the meat by the bone, no matter what the animal, whether it's lamb or
Right.
steak. I mean, the meat by the bone is some of the most delicious and tender meat in
Right.
the entire cut of.
So this is good.
Animal.
Another like, there's so many old fitness nutrition myths that people still believe or keep hearing still from influencers or trainers.
Mhm.
You know, oh, I heard you can only eat the white meat, you know, if you want to like lose body fat. No, you can.
It's about
like,
your total picture. too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I think where more Americans like trip up and stumble is they'll learn what the right foods to eat are at mealtime, you know, but then it's what you're doing between those meals. For
Right.
one thing, what are you taking in as far as liquids?
Right.
Like all I drink all day is those 2 cups of coffee in the morning, and then water all day long. I've just acclimated myself to that. When I was playing, I used to drink a lot of Gatorade, but I needed it then. I needed that sugar
Electrolytes.
and those electrolytes,
too.
exactly. But so you know, you got to make sure your fluids aren't going astray, and then, you know, moderate hopefully the craft beer consumption at night. You know, maybe a couple at the most. Hopefully, don't, you know, ideally don't do it nightly.
Right.
Just on certain occasions.
Yes.
And then but you know, all the salty snacks though, and the sweets between
people snacking
meals.
on things, they lose track of how much they're actually taking in every day.
And you're spiking your insulin levels. You know what I mean? When you're taking in, let's say, something really sugary, whether it's a soda or some type of sweet snack, spiking those insulin levels, and when you come crashing down, not only is your energy crushed, but you feel ravishingly hungry.
Right.
You know,
and it's compounded in people who are inactive.
For sure. Yep.
Good stuff. So speaking of, so here's a tip. You might want to, like, especially this time of year, adding some sea salt to your water for natural electrolytes. It's like, it's so good. It's
I do need to do that. Yeah, sometimes when I'm at the gym, you see me, we go at it hard, and I sweat like crazy.
Right,
like I'll actually lose probably 2 pounds of sweat.
Yeah.
But I'll still be hydrating. But once in a while, we always hit like the abs at the end and stuff like that. I'll feel my abs start to cramp. I think that is electrolytes.
It's electrolytes. So like before you leave the house, sea salt. It's all you need, because all the electrolytes and trace minerals are in sea salt. You don't need to go buying the packaged stuff with all the other added like powders and colors and that stuff. Like God gave us sea salt.
That's right.
We got it. Like that's the best
provided.
electrolyte. Does it taste awesome? No, but you could put a squeeze of lemon in your water with it.
Oh, yeah.
But the electrolytes from the sea salt, it's like a little magic.
I got to do that more often.
I'll remind you.
Yep.
Want to
Do
see you
that.
again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it sounds like the kids are on board with like eating good quality, healthy foods for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Now they're kids. I
they
get
have
it.
their
Like
moments.
even
Yeah, they're
like us, we need
teenagers.
to deviate sometimes and
Exactly.
have the
Yeah.
pizza or the ice cream or
Yep.
whatever.
My son was getting a little too into eating fast food, and he knew it. He's actually gotten pretty committed to training. Like,
Nice.
there's a guy that's a former college football coach here in town that owns a gym on 3rd Street here, A1A in Jags Beach. Great guy, really knowledgeable about training, and my son's become really committed to going to him several times a week to or preparing to get ready to go to college. But
Nice.
last year he was getting it probably 2 times a week, if not more. He was hitting up some fast food. It was showing. He was starting to carry some extra weight, and it wasn't good weight.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Like for them to be able to experience that and see.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now I'm eating this stuff twice a week, right? For them to feel the effects.
Yeah.
And if they're an athlete like he is, he's pretty in tune with his body, his weight, his energy levels, his output. They can see that if they're paying attention. Like, okay, this isn't helpful.
Yep.
Really,
You can feel how you're not moving as well.
Right.
I mean, I know when I was playing, I could tell when I probably wanted to lose a little bit of weight because I just wasn't moving as well as I. We were watching film constantly, so you have a lot of mental comparison of how you have moved, and when you see yourself moving differently. Now, some of that just came with age, but at the same time, some of it was just, kind of maybe dialing back some of your calories a little bit if you see yourself not moving the way you want to.
Right. A visual motivation.
Yeah.
All right. I can see I'm a little slow there or not as sharp on the cut.
Exactly.
Good stuff. All right. So just real quick, really quick. Back to childhood. Where were you born and did you have any siblings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was born in Northern Virginia, actually. Manassas, Virginia.
Okay.
It's a sort of a suburb of DC.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the youngest of 4. I've got an older brother who's 8.5 years older. The next one is a sister who's about 7.5 years older, and then a sister that's 5 years older. Mm-hmm. So boy, girl, boy, and I was the last one.
Wow. And you guys all in touch still?
Yeah. My brother lives in Raleigh, North Carolina. He's former military. He was a Ranger and a Green Beret. Wow. And then my 2 sisters were really good track athletes, and they both live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. When I was in 1st grade, actually, we moved up to the Harrisburg area of Pennsylvania, and they still live in that area. My brother's in Raleigh, and then down here in Florida.
Nice.
Yeah, all East Coast.
Very cool. So at this stage of life now, you're in your early 52, right?
That's right, 52. Mm-hmm.
What's your professional life like?
So I ended up, after I finished playing, going into finance for a while, and I enjoyed that. But I had taken my law school admissions test when I was still playing, and it's something that I just kind of had as a goal, that I wanted to at least check it out and see what it was like going to law school. And I ended up starting it, and I liked it. I mean, some of the things I learned, I was like, wow, I could have really used a lot of this knowledge back when I was in my professional football career.
Right.
I mean, contracts, buying and selling property, things like that.
Right.
Just would have been very beneficial, but better late than never. I mean, I was 38 years old when I started law school, finished at 41. So now I've had my license to practice law for the last 10 or so years.
Right.
And I'm not technically practicing law per se. I started a company, Willow Falls LLC. Basically, it's a real estate oriented finance company. Mm-hmm. My company makes loans. Or offers financial solutions to local builders and contractors. Okay. There's been tremendous growth, as we know, in Florida. And in Northeast Florida, we've had a ton of growth. A lot of builders and contractors in this area want to build additional spec inventory. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have enough money in their company to build 2 or 3 spec homes, but they want to build 7, 8, or 9.
Right.
So my company kind of comes alongside them and gives them either construction loan financing, mm-hmm. or else maybe if for a bigger project, maybe we'll take a joint venture position where we're actually partners on the deal. And I've always enjoyed real estate. Back when I was in law school, it was just after the recession of 2008.
Oh, yeah.
There was actually tremendous deals to be found
Sure.
all over the state of Florida, all over the country at that time,
yes.
contrary to the real estate market now. So I bought a bunch of rental properties because it was just a great time to buy. And because I was doing that as I was in law school, I I try to develop as much knowledge about the real estate markets and the legal
Mm-hmm.
side of real estate as I possibly could. And then after getting out of college, I came to understand there's a whole lot of different ways to skin a cat,
Right.
so to speak, and when it comes to real estate, a lot of different ways to invest in it. I mean, you can just be a traditional owner of rental properties,
Right.
and do very well with that,
Mm-hmm.
and or you can be in commercial real estate, or be on the finance side of real
Right.
estate, which is what I do through my company. And so it's fun.
Yeah, it
It's
sounds
something
like it.
I've found that I enjoy beyond the game.
Yeah, sounds like there are a bunch of interesting dynamics there, and
Yeah.
interpersonal dynamics with like banks, contractors,
Oh, yeah.
etc. Is it mostly residential? That
Primarily residential. We'll do some commercial projects on occasion.
Right.
Yeah, and essentially we act almost like a lender,
Right.
really. Institutional lenders like the big
Right.
banks, the Banks of America, the Wells Fargos, those type of banks. They take a very long time. They're very
Right.
slow.
A lot of red tape.
Exactly, bureaucracy.
Right.
Like if a builder goes to those banks and says, "Hey, I found a project. There's 5 lots down in this one part of St. Johns County or wherever it is, Duval County, and I'd really like to buy these lots to build some spec homes on. Could you help me out?" They'll say, "Oh, well, submit an application. We'll get back to you in 2 months." Well, by 2 months later, that deal is gone.
Right.
So, being an attorney, I can take a look at a title commitment, which is essentially going to give you an idea of what the status of the title is, whether there's any liens or encumbrances
Right,
on that
right.
property, and I can tell really quickly whether it's clean and
Right.
whether the land is good to go.
Right.
And so it's they get something in terms of getting the capital, the opportunity, and then obviously we get a return on it as well.
Right. Right. And the name of that business is
Willow Falls Capital, or Willow Falls LLC, essentially.
Right. Awesome. Willow
Yeah.
Falls. And so, do you have any partners in that?
I have one gentleman, a couple of people that are investors with me on
Right.
it, and one gentleman's actually a partner on the business, a co-manager and co-owner of the business. Some of it, I have a couple different companies I do it through.
Mm-hmm.
Willow Falls is one of them, and then the one I do it with a friend of mine who's also an investor is Ocean Palm LLC, and so he's just a guy I've known for quite a long time, and
Right.
he really sold his business and did very well with it, and I just kind of told him about the stuff that I was doing to get advice from him. Hey, what do you think of this? I trust your business mind. He liked it so much. He said, I want to invest in this. So,
Nice.
So he's been doing
great.
it with me now for quite some time.
Very cool. So, is your area of focus mostly here in northeastern Florida?
Primarily, yeah. I mean, I've gone outside the area at
Right.
times, and I've done some things with some larger builders, even some ones that are like national or even regional, and done some projects in other parts of the country, North Carolina, Texas, even Colorado.
Nice.
But most of it is probably 80% of it is right here in Florida.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity around here.
Oh, there sure is.
Right?
Yeah.
Keeps you busy enough.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So like we're coming toward the end here, where we get to the nominate question for me, and then sharing any social handle or website you want to share. So, you ready to nominate somebody as a future guest?
Yeah, I mentioned to you a little bit before we started here. There's another young man that lives here, and not that I'm a young man. He's a younger man.
We
than
are
I am.
young men.
In our mind. In my mind, I'm still 22. I can go out and do all the things I used to.
That counts.
My body thoroughly disagrees with a lot of that, though. There's a guy named Paul Posluszny, though, who's a former NFL athlete,
Sure.
Jaguar, and also a Penn Stater, which I went to Penn State.
Right.
Go Lions! And
Yeah.
great guy, very humble, and he's very mindful of his physical fitness and his diet. And he actually, interestingly enough, and I'll let him tell the story, but was diagnosed with diabetes at the end of his football career.
Really?
It was more of a genetic thing.
Okay.
It wasn't
Makes
something
sense.
that because he was living a super healthy
Sure.
lifestyle.
He's in his early 50s now too, right?
No, actually, he's in his probably only late 30s.
Really?
At this point, yeah.
Oh, that's right. He was playing not long ago.
Yeah, his rookie year was 2007, which was my
Right.
last year in the NFL. So
Okay.
I'm saying he would have been about 22, 23 years old at 2007. So what? Oh, now we're 17 years from that. So he's maybe late 30s, early 40s. Yeah.
Right.
And I imagine he'd be an interesting guy to
Yeah.
pick his brain about these things.
That'll
Yeah.
be fun. That'll be a good conversation. So yeah, let's see if he's open to it.
Absolutely.
We'll share your episode once I get it published by the weekend. If you want to share that, hey, here's my episode, the interview with Joey. That'll be cool.
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. So what's your question for me? We're
Hmm.
turning the tables here.
I
This is the
know.
turn the tables part of the episode.
Now it's my show.
Kyle, it's his show.
It's the
It's it.
Kyle
He's got
Brady
it.
podcast.
I told him
No.
anything goes here.
Oh man, you put me on the spot here. I had a little bit of time to think about this, but I guess I'd say, what's the most difficult challenge or obstacle you've ever had to overcome?
There were several of them, but right now the Holy Spirit is inspiring me to share this one. I had a bulging disc about 14 years ago. It feels like yesterday. I had a bulging disc in the lower left. And my daughter, who lives here with me, she's going to be 20 in a few weeks. She was maybe like 5 or 6, 7 at the time, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
We lived over in St. John's. And I was getting the kids through school around then. And I've had my injuries over the years from sports, soccer, hockey, a little bit of pee-wee football, lifting too heavy, and inheriting some things from my mom and dad with their back issues. They've had multiple surgeries, both of them. So my body's always been like, I got the ankle stuff, had some back stuff I always had to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And the disc thing was kind of like a compound episode from several things together. And I think the final trigger was I took a spill on a surfboard out here. Even though I didn't live out here, I would come out here a lot. I'd take the kids out. I would take my youngest out here a lot. I took a spill on a surfboard, and I felt kind of like I had this itch. It was itchy, but there was nothing itching me on the surface, but it felt like there was this itch going on. And as the next few weeks progressed, I just started getting these numbing fatigue sensations radiating down. And it just kept getting progressively worse no matter what I did. And so this lumbar disc bulged but didn't herniate. And it bulged so much that I couldn't sleep at night. I was having symptoms ranging from like radiating shooting pains up into my mid-back. And I started getting everything from pain, numbness, like non-functionality of my foot, stabbing pains in the knee, the toes, like everything. And I had no insurance at the time. So I was like, the first thing I got to do is get insurance. So like I battled through what turned into a month, 2 months, 3 months. I would hobble around wherever I had to go. Like I literally would have to walk, lifting my leg, and training became really hard. Like just training, no matter what it was, even if I was training upper body, was extremely difficult because this thing was hurting so bad, no matter what position I was in. Got insurance, got into the orthopedics here. They did their MRIs, X-rays. I really thought I needed a hip replacement. Like if you were to ask me, I thought the joint was gone. But they said, your joint is perfect, but you got a severely bulging disc that's creating all this havoc by pushing on that main root nerve. And then everything
Was it the sciatic nerve?
It was, no, it wasn't sciatic. It was like the, what's the word I'm looking for? It was like one of the main root nerves right near the disc. And so it was affecting all other nerves coming down off of that, all the way into my toes, and some of them going upward. And I ended up having some atrophy. Like sometimes if you're looking, you can see like parts of this leg are smaller than this one. I lost most of the tibialis in the front here just from that. And I was scared. I'm thinking, man, I'm never going to be able to train lower body and like I used to, or even close to it. I may not even be able to train this leg anymore. And that was a frightening experience. I ended up going to the orthopedist. They did the MRIs, X-rays. They saw the severely bulging disc, showed me on the MRI. They said, you probably don't need surgery, but you will need intense physical therapy. And I think I started like the next day or so. And it was intense. I mean, they were doing a lot of manual work. And I was coming off the table sometimes, like literally. It was it was necessary, and I could tell they were doing the right things.
Yeah.
Because like the first few days, right after the first session, second session, third, I was starting to get immediate relief. It was like this pressure was being taken off, not only that root nerve, but the other nerves that were starting to get dysfunctional and do their own things
and those
as a
nerves
result.
start to shut down your muscles.
Yes.
As you were experiencing.
Yes.
I had an L4, L5 disc bulge and had sciatica.
How long ago was that?
Back in college, and actually I was worried it was going to shut down my
It's
football
scary,
career.
you know.
Oh yeah. I started to get numbness and tingling down the leg, and shooting pains, things like that. I mean, maybe not quite as severe. I wasn't getting it up in any other regions, but it was an L4, L5 disc bulge, same thing.
Right. Did you end up going to therapy?
Went through very, very rigorous, tough physical therapy. And this was back in the early 90s, and that was before like core stabilization was all the rage.
Right.
Not only core stabilization, but big focus and emphasis on stretching.
Yes.
And I look
mobility.
back on that now. Yeah, mobility. You know, getting your hips to core neutral and understanding what that is.
Right.
Understanding what core neutral even is. Most people don't even know what these concepts are.
Right.
And then all of our muscles, as you know, they connect in our pelvic girdle.
Yes.
You know, our hamstrings, our quadriceps, our erector spinae muscles. You know, like if all those things get tight and bound up, that
it affects everything.
It affects everything.
Right.
Exactly. You know, so I hear you on that.
All right. So you're feeling me.
Oh, and that's debilitating. Like nothing is more debilitating than having that kind of back injury.
Yes, it was beyond. So anyway, what that did was, got through enough rehab to where I felt like, oh man, like I've got my life back again. Even though this has never been 100%, just having it 85% is good enough. Like compared to what it was like a 5. I was at 5%.
Wow.
Functionality, and the pain was off the charts, and all the other symptoms with it. So that gave me, number one, an appreciation for people who are going through that stuff. I now know what that's like.
Oh yeah.
Whether they're in it in real time or it was some part of their past and they don't want to injure themselves again.
Yeah.
Right. So having gone through that, doing the rehab, shifting my training a little bit to include continuous, what I call rehab, as part of my training now. Getting even more focused on mobility. Like you see the mat I have over there. I'll lay that down here and I'll stretch. Like I'll put the mat down. I have an exercise ball upstairs. I'll do mobility every day.
Yeah.
There's no excuse not to. I'll turn on a podcast and I'll just spend time on the mat, going through a bunch of different stretches, holds, etc.
It's one of those things that as we age, it's so much more important than anything.
It's critical.
And it's it's the one thing that I think a lot of people, even athletes, leave out.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's like, oh, I don't have time. Like, I got my main training done. Mobility is like, you don't know how much it's worth until you suffer something that makes you require mobility training in what you're doing. Even if it's introduced through traditional physical therapy at a clinic, right? There's no reason to stop doing most of the exercises, especially the ones you've graduated to in that rehab program.
Yeah.
Like keep doing those. Like they worked for a reason. Keep those as part of your fitness training now.
Absolutely.
Right. So that was a really tough situation on many levels. Guys like us, we like to be active. We don't like to have to not be active for something, especially that's out of our control. Right. Yeah. So that was it
has to become a lifestyle, kind of, is what I've heard people say that they've had that problem before. And I was the same way,
Right.
It kind of has to stay in your mind.
Yes.
About, this is something I'll always have to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So, again, for us, like we already lived this lifestyle, adding something else to it that it's going to keep that kind of pain away and dysfunctionality. Yeah. I'll add these extras in.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was scary. It was painful. It was debilitating during the several months I was experiencing it. But it was also a blessing because now I get to understand what other people are going through. And if they're coming to me for post-rehab transitional fitness, I have way better context on their specific situation if that's the issue that they were dealing with. Great question, by the way. Nobody's asked that one. Excellent.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right. So is there a website or a social handle or both that you would like to share if somebody wants to go learn more about you or learn about the business? Or...
Yeah, I'm not a huge social media guy, to be quite
Understood.
honest, and that's I feel like I'm living in another century because of that. Maybe
I
people
get
think I'm
it.
probably irrelevant, but yeah, my business is sort of word of mouth. I mean, but if
Okay.
someone out there happens to be a builder
Right.
and they would want to reach out to me about potentially getting involved in a project they have going here, especially if it's right here in Northeast Florida, they can just shoot me an email at kyle@willowfallscapital.com. That's just my name, Kyle at willowfallscapital.com, and they can tell me what they have going on, and I could give them an answer relatively quickly about whether it's something that we could help them out with.
Nice. Willow Falls Capital.
Yeah,
Capital spelled with an AL for the...
Capital. That's
Right.
right. OL is like a capital of a state, but
I get
AL
it. A
is
lot
like,
of people would,
yeah,
what's the spelling of that?
yep.
Perfect. All right. Well, Kyle, this has been awesome.
Yeah, I
Lot
enjoyed it,
lot
Joey,
of lot of good real life insights there, and
for sure.
super appreciate your
Yep,
time and
enjoyed it.
fitting me into your schedule
No
despite the
worries at all.
busyness with the business and the kids and your own training and
Yeah.
everything that goes with it. So thank you.
Keep up
Appreciate
the
it.
good work. Seems like this is great, and I look forward to seeing you in the gym.
Awesome. You will.
All right,
All right.
man.
That's it for this episode. Make sure you leave some comments for us. There's a comment section under the video if you're watching this on YouTube instead of the audio. And let us know what you think. And as always, peace and much love to you. We'll see you on the next episode. Good work,
All right,
brother.
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, enjoyed it.